Okay, let's give people a few minutes to enter. We'll also go live on the TikTok. Of all the platforms, I have to say, TikTok has the best filter. It's always flattering, no matter what. All right, let's see. Let's see how the IG is looking. Okay. All right. Okay, we are officially live. We're going to give it a second. We are a few minutes behind schedule. Hello, TikTokers. Welcome. We have another great conversation, Brother Long and myself. Welcome to Secrets of Self-Healing, part 1 of nutrition. We don't know exactly how many parts there are going to be because this particular conversation is not only interesting, it's just multi-layered. And arguably, this is one of the greatest weapons, if I may use that term, or tools. Let me use that term. It is one of the greatest tools that is being currently employed against us as a part of the human race. So it's more important than ever to overstand and understand the food that you're consuming, how it's going to integrate into your body, the relevance of that. This is a time for discernment. But before we begin, I want to allow a few more people to come in. Hello, TikTokers. Welcome. Good to see you all. Let's see how we're doing over here on IG. It is going to be another great conversation with Brother Long and I. I certainly hope you all have questions for us because we would like to answer. We would like to answer and bring clarity. I can't tell for certain if we are live on the IG. But we are definitely live on YouTube. And also, that is some breaking news for those of you that joined us last week or were looking for us last week. We were not on the YouTube. I have to be very careful what I say, as Paul Chek says, because the spellcasters are watching and they are paying close attention to what we are saying. I don't seem to be live on the IG, right? Even on YouTube? It's showing here as live on StreamYard. Right over here. And both of these are checked. You are live. You are live. Huh. The always TikTok, the least problematic. Who would have thunk it? The best filter and the least problematic.
Yes, that's okay. I got it.
Is it now? Finally. Okay, good. So there's a delay. So it's good to know for future that we need to give it a minute. We should not be starting right off the bat.
See you on.
You see us on YouTube? Are we live on the IG as well?
We're not live on IG yet.
Not yet. Okay, Brother Long, we're going to give it another minute because there's a delay.
Okay.
Going live, and we want to make sure that people get the most out of this conversation. Again, Brother Long and I are going to be speaking to you all about nutrition and a lot of the confusion that's created intentionally around nutrition and how to properly feed yourself in order to create health and well-being. Because we want you all to get the most out of this, we're just going to give it a few more minutes. But we appreciate all of you that have come to join us here on TikTok. And I see a couple of you here on the YouTube. And we're just waiting and ensuring that the IG goes live as well. Let's see. Very strange. Strange times. But yes, like I said earlier, we are very happy to be back on YouTube. We were delayed for a moment there because, we were not able to get on YouTube last week because unfortunately I had posted, well, let me take that back. I had posted, not unfortunately, but I had posted something that the spellcasters did not want out here in these streets, so to speak. Still not live on the IG. Very odd. Very odd. Let's see.
You're on that.
Um, Yeah, because you logged in onto this account a few weeks ago. This is the one I've been using. Is this the one? Does it look like it? It's allowed the fact that it's allowing me to go on 2 platforms lets me know that it's the Pro, because normally you can only go on the one at a time. So bizarre. Again, it's showing here that I'm live. If your stream is public, you'll find it at the top of your feed on Instagram. Huh. Very, very
Continue to do what you did last time.
with the camera?
When you went in.
Yeah, would I just basically flip the camera to it?
No, I mean when you went into Instagram to get that code and everything.
I did. Yeah. No. I did. So bizarre. I'm wondering if we should come off and come back on.
Um,
Let's see.
maybe you can.
Scheduled content. Excuse the technical difficulties. Can anyone tell us if Mercury is in retrograde? Is that why we are not live when we need to be? We are keen to get this conversation going. It's going to be very informative. We hope to bust some myths that are out there. And most importantly, we want you all to feel like you walked away with something that you can apply to your life, something that you're able to utilize to procure better health. Or for some of you, it might mean maintaining your current health, right? Those of you that still have your health, we want to make sure that you maintain that health. And those of you that are needing to restore health, we might have some information here that will help you do that today. It is certainly the time right now to know enough about yourself and how to feed yourself and how to care for yourself. Because again, as I mentioned a few moments ago, one of the tools that's being currently weaponized against us is food. The fact that it is unfortunately tampered with and toyed with to the point where it's no longer, depending on where you're sourcing your food from, nourishing and healing. And food doesn't have any other purpose other than to heal you and to fuel you. It is not for your entertainment. Unfortunately, it is not a pastime. There is a function, even when it comes to your nutrition. I know Brother Long is going to, as always, add some really keen and important points of reference to this conversation. And I want to also add, because Brother Long and I tend to meet and do like a run through before we actually get on the live, that I do believe that you're going to find some contradicting information between what Brother Long and I and our sort of education. Oh, don't be dissuaded by that, because we want to have differing views. We want to have, in some cases, even contradiction between us, because we come from two different schools of thought. We come from two different life experiences, and so our truths, although most of the time they do overlap, sometimes there's going to be things that I say that he may not agree with, and vice versa, and that I think makes for a good discourse and debate. And the thing that you should take from that more than anything is that you are the expert on you. So whether something I say resonates, or something Brother Long says resonates, and they happen to contradict each other, you should go with what seems or feels right, not seems, but feels right intuitively to you, because what's medicine for one person can be something else for someone else. And so I wanted to put that disclaimer out. The other disclaimer I will add also is that we are not doctors. And so this is not medical advice. This is in some part education, entertainment. It's us just sharing, which is why we call it conversation. So please understand and understand that you are the expert on you, and you should do what feels right for you. And you should also consult with your medical health professional. All right. So please take what we give you, apply it to common sense, apply it to, what it is that you need in life, and make a decision with your own physician or GP about whether it's right for you or not. I think on that note, we're going to get started. Even though I don't appear to be live on IG, perhaps I'll just manually go live on IG. Not ideal because we don't get to see the presentation that way, but c'est la vie. C'est la vie. We must continue and go forth. Okay, so now we are finally live on the IG. So again, TikTokers, I thank you for your patience. YouTube, thank you. For those of you that are going to be watching this back on the replay, just a little reintroduction of who we are. My name is Lisa. I also go by the Alkali Yogi online. My co-host for Secrets of Self-Healing, Part 1 on nutrition, is Brother Long, who is a Taoist healer, joining us all the way from the continent. Brother Long and I have different paths into how we got into wellness. I'll get him to tell you a little bit about how he came into wellness. But before that, I just want to go over again the disclaimers. The first disclaimer being that we are not medical doctors, although we have a great affinity and love and passion, as well as certifications for health and wellness. So we are not speaking to you as medical doctors. We are speaking to you as wellness professionals. And you should take what we say. You should speak to your GP because we are not offering you medical advice, and you should make an informed decision for yourself. You should also go by what resonates with you because, incidentally, some of the stuff that we are going to cover will overlap. And conversely, some of the stuff that we cover will contradict the other's perspective. And that's okay. Because again, we come from two different lineages, two different life experiences. We've walked two different paths, and therefore our experiences have led us to where we are. But unlike how the world is treating opposing views today, I actually think it's healthy to have debate. I think it's important that we see if there is something that I'm missing when Brother Long is saying something. And hopefully he's also considering if he's missing something when I say something that maybe he doesn't necessarily agree with. And even if we don't agree, we will always certainly agree to disagree respectfully. That's the main thing. We are here to empower you, right? Again, we're not offering you medical advice, but we are here to empower you. We want you to be able to make good decisions about your nutrition because, to sum it up, you are what you eat. And that is important because when I say that, I literally mean you are what you eat. You become the food that you consume will become your hair follicles, will become your cells, will become your teeth, will become your organs and glands, etc. So you mustn't ever put something into your body that you know is not taking you closer towards your health and wellness goals, right? In fact, the quote of the day will be this. One second. Matter of fact, as I'm getting the quote of the day, why don't I allow Brother Long to introduce himself so that those of you that are new to the conversations can get better acquainted with Brother Long. Brother Long, mic is yours.
Very good, very good. Thank you, thank you. So my name is Brother Long, and the training that I got for this conversation, it's pretty much I can pretty much talk about all of the training that I had. I normally try to isolate a few different trainings or certifications I did that specialize in the info, but when you're studying the healing arts, a lot of it is based on your diet, nutrition, the food, the things that you eat. And so some of the information that I got in this, a lot of it comes from my independent research, which I learned to do in the course of taking a community health worker certification course that was put together by the Ohio Board of Nursing, where we were required to do 6 hours of medical research. And I wound up doing over 100 hours of medical research, studying the medical journals. And I wind up being made aware of a lot of different things that I put into the presentations that I have here. And I'm very, very excited to show you what it is I was able to discover.
We can't wait to hear it as well. And I'm Lisa. I go by the Alkali Yogi online. I'm certified as a holistic practitioner, a licensed health coach through the Chek Institute, founded by Paul Chek. Frankly, I became interested in health and wellness after suffering my own health crisis. So when I was faced with health issues, where I was told that, what I was dealing with was incurable and irreversible, I took it upon myself to inform myself as to how I could support my body in its efforts and desire to conspire on behalf of me and keep me alive and well. How could I best do that? And that's kind of what began my journey into wellness. That and the fact that I happened to have met my first mentor shortly after graduating from university and relocating to London, England. That set me on my path. And he, in fact, is a Chek practitioner, and introduced me to this way of living where I understand that my decisions impact my wellness, my health. And so even though some people might say, well, genetics plays a part in this, this is true. Genetics do play a part. To quote Paul Chek, the genetics are really just the gun, and your lifestyle choices become the ammunition. So how will you then disempower the genetic flaws, if you will, and strengthen your genetic strengths in order to bring you the best possible outcome insofar as your health goes? We are having some technical difficulties. I'm having to hold my mobile phone and point it at the laptop in order to get the presentation live on Instagram. StreamYard, for some reason, says that we are live on Instagram, but that's not the case. So my apologies to those of you on IG. You're not getting the best picture, but again, the information is important. So even without the visuals, if you just are hearing our voice, you'll get the information that you need. And of course, again, one more time, it needs to be said that we are happy and wanting to take your questions towards the end of our presentation. So please have them. Even if you're not watching with us live, you can put those very questions in the comment section. And in that comment section, Brother Long and I will sift through any questions and answer them accordingly. Also in the questions box, what you will find, and I'll add it to the IG right now, since the IG is not going through the StreamYard like it's supposed to, our email addresses, so that you can reach out to us and connect with either one of us for either additional consultation and or questions. So 1 second to connect with Brother Long. I'll put his information up first and put mine in shortly. And Brother Long, you're currently taking clients? Is that correct?
Sure.
Super. So, oops, incorrect. Sorry, let me correct that. At gmail.com. So this is Brother Long's email address. I'm going to pin that on the IG. If you're on YouTube, you'll find this in the box below, in the description box. All right, so to get started, as I said to you moments ago, you are what you eat. What you put into your food absolutely matters. And so when you are wanting to create health and wellness, you are responsible and therefore need to make responsible decisions. And sometimes those decisions might mean a little bit of sacrifice, but in sacrifice, I just mean, rather than sacrifice, let's reframe this. We will say that you'll just need to, there will be a period of adjustment. I have made several periods of adjustments in my life as my thought process around nutrition is consistently changing, and as I'm gaining new information and experience. And what I've learned is that you can essentially replace most of the things that you are addicted to. And I don't use that word reluctantly or flippantly, because there is a lot of trickery and additives and chemicals added to your food to make you, as I just said, addicted to that food. So the things that you feel like you cannot simply give up right now, you'll find that we can replace those things. If you give us the time, we will share with you how to replace some of your favorite foods and snacks with things that are actually life affirming and electric, because you're an electric being. And if you didn't know that, again, how is it that your heart is beating? It is because you are electrical. So going back to Hippocrates, they tell us that he is the father of medicine. His very infamous quote was, "Let food be thy medicine." Steve Jobs added to that, "If your food is not your medicine will be your food." I would have to agree with both those statements. This, incidentally, is actually not the quote of the day. The quote of the day is by Jerry Welsh, and it is the following. Forgive me for not having it on the screen, but pay close attention. You may want to jot this one down. It's one that I often repeat to myself. It's become a mantra of sorts. And that quote is, "When you have a big enough dream, you do not create a crisis." Again, when your dream is big enough, you will not create a crisis. So whether your dream is to improve your fertility, improve your skin, improve some other disease that you're currently facing, if that dream is big enough, you will not create a crisis for yourself, meaning you will stay focused and on the path to restoring your health and wellness, which you can do with the correct information. And that is what Brother Long and I are here to share with you, is the information that we have. And in that, you will find what resonates with you and what is sound, right knowledge for you. What is sound, right knowledge for one may not necessarily be sound, right knowledge for another. And the reason for that is because we have bio-individuality and we are completely one out of one. There's no one else like us. Make sense? All right, carrying on. Don't forget your questions. Like I said to you earlier, your genetics are a map, but an alternate route is always an option, said the Alkali Yogi. That would be me. So let's begin with, to avoid living through the expressions of potential genetic flaws, you must determine which sources meet your genetic requirements so that you can accentuate your genetic strengths instead. You can slim down without being hungry whilst you're feeding your body what it needs and what it needs it, so that you can deal with these social and economic and environmental stressors inherent to modern life. So I'm a perfect example of that. About 14 months ago, I weighed 25 pounds more than I do right now. And although I was not considered overweight, I was carrying toxicity. And since going on that, on the fast that I did last summer, which consisted of 40 days of water, I've been able to maintain this weight, even though I've resumed to eating. So I've been not fasting for the better part of 14 months. Now, I should say I do fast still about once a week. And sometimes I'll fast for 3 days in a month, because I think that that is an important part of your lifestyle and maintaining, for me anyways, maintaining my health goals and wellness goals. So I have made it a practice where I've added it, but I have not done another 40-day water detox, nor do I expect to, inshallah, God willing. And so that is to say that even though now I'm eating and have been eating, I've not restored the weight that I lost, which was weight that needed to come off because there were cells that were. I have not gone hungry. In fact, I am a foodie, a self-professed foodie. Perhaps you're familiar with a little bit of my background. I was born and raised in Italy, so I'm very passionate about food. And my family is from Eritrea. So I affectionately call myself, playfully, I call myself Afro-Italiana, because I'm African by way of Italia. And so I have found a way to balance food that is nutritious and healing for me whilst not compromising taste. You can do the same with the correct information. Again, we touched upon bio-individuality a moment ago, so I'll just bring it up once more. The notion of individuality in nutrition is key. We must all consider our biochemical and our cultural diversity. Brother Long has a different background than I do. I know I'm from East Africa, but again, born and raised in Italy. I also know I have more than just Eritrean blood in me because of where we're positioned, which is right off the Red Sea in the Horn of Africa. It is not unexpected that we may have some Yemeni blood in us, perhaps some Italian blood once Mussolini came and occupied. right? And so, although I have not done a DNA test and don't plan to, because I have my own reasons, it is expected that there will be more than just one race going through me. That makes me an individual, just as you are an individual, one of one, unique like a snowflake. This also supports the science-backed theory that viruses and bacteria are in fact not the enemy. Rather, it is the environment, also known as the soil, our body, our internal bodies, that host the bacteria and viruses that determine the outcome. So, what is your school of thought? Do you clean out the tank if the fish gets sick in your fish tank, or do you clean out the tank by medicating it, or do you improve the health function of the fish so that the fish can withstand normal stressors and can fight viruses, which it's designed to do? The immune system needs to be stimulated. Like any organ in the body, if it's not stimulated, it begins to lose its potency, its effectiveness. So you want to be challenged with viruses and bacteria every once in a while. More on bioindividuality. In 1956, Roger Williams, a famous biochemist, published a book entitled Biochemical Individuality. And Williams revealed that there are variances in the size and shape, location, and even capacity of virtually all internal organs. He showed us that there is a tremendous difference in metabolic rate from one person to the next. And he found a wide variation in water content as well as oxygen carrying capacity in the blood of one person to the next. So we function differently on the inside, and therefore we have different nutritional needs. So far, I hope 1 + 1 is equaling 2 for everyone. If not, please again, place your comments in the comment section. Dr. Weston A. Price. He was a dentist like no other. Weston A. Price documents the most thorough investigation of dietary variations amongst primitive people in his book, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. Pausing for a moment. I have read this book. It is fascinating. I own a copy of this book, also fascinating. And if any of you would like me to come and do a live where I read to you from this book on a weekly basis, like I did with Paul Chek's book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, let me know in the comments, and we can restart a weekly meetup where I read to you one chapter at a time from these really thought-provoking and paradigm-shifting books that are crucial now more than ever. In the early 1930s, Price traveled the globe investigating the relationships between health and diet amongst Native people. And his records were extensive in comparing the health of natives who had deviated from their natural diets to those who continued with their traditional ways of eating. He identified 16 diverse cultures whose diets varied greatly depending on where they lived and what foods were available. Equatorial, polar, and variable types. So what he identified is that there are essentially 3 types, right? This is a bit of an oversimplification, but follow me if you will. You have the equatorial types, which are people that live in more tropical areas closer to the equator. You also have the polar types, which are the people that live closer to the North and South Pole, right? So more longitude, not latitude. And then you have the variable types, which are the people that can really vacillate and eat a little bit of both diets, in other words. So Eskimos, not surprisingly, they eat food that is high in fat and protein. Based on their location, they would have great difficulty coming across mangoes and pineapples. South Americans ate a small amount of meat and mainly plant-based foods, not surprisingly, because again, avocados, coconuts, everything is grown with no effort, little to no effort, just naturally in the environment. And the variables, again, eat roughly equal parts, right? So for the people that live sort of in between the equator and the poles, those sometimes tend to be more variable types, and they do okay fairly well on a diet that's a split 50-50. The diets shared several underlying characteristics that included all foods were organic, because up until very recently, there was no separation of organic and conventional foods because there were no foods that were being sprayed heavily with chemicals, harsh chemicals, which unfortunately have very grave effects on our health. And that primarily came about after the Second World War, when it was decided that petroleum, which was making far too much money for I guess, some important people. We'll call them that for the sake of this argument. We could also call them the elite. Let's just say that they were not happy to part with their newly found stream of income and high profits. And so they were able to repurpose the petroleum into chemicals that were then sprayed and added to foods under the guise of, well, this will protect your food from insects, yada, yada, yada. And then also those those petroleum, the petroleums were also added as a base product to many pharmaceuticals and are in fact still very much a part of pharmaceuticals today. So again, foods were all organic up until about 70 years or so ago. They were all whole foods and minimally processed, meaning people were not getting foods from the frozen food section of a supermarket. They were primarily making foods using whole foods. They were not getting foods out of cellophane packets and the like. There were no ready-made meals. Everything had to be made from scratch. You weren't going to be buying your bread. You were going to be making your bread. And for some societies, animal products, based again on where they lived. So the standards. It is critical to fine-tune your senses so that you become aware of your meals and what your body needs in order to optimize your genetic potential and to suppress your genetic weakness. So again, empowering you to be accountable for yourself and making the necessary decisions when it comes to preserving your health and or healing. Oftentimes we are sick simply because there is too much toxicity in the body, toxic overload, which leads to inflammation. It's really not rocket science most of the time. And it is in fact believed that about 90 to 95% of all common diseases today are lifestyle ones that could be reversed simply by cleaning up your diet, adding some movement, going to bed early, and staying hydrated. So again, not rocket science, fairly straightforward. I'll just add to this that any of you who are tennis fans, you may have noticed Novacek. Novacek? How do you pronounce his name, Brother Long? Do you remember? Can you say it correctly?
Who are you talking about?
The tennis player, Nova, from Serbia.
Oh. Novacek? Novacek, maybe?
Yes, Novacek. There we go. Who is now officially the greatest tennis player of all time. Won his gold medal at the current Olympics taking place in Paris. He did an interview. He's done several interviews where he's talked about his nutrition. And when I listen to it, and you can Google this yourself, it's all very straightforward. You know, he juices, he goes to bed on time, he eats very clean, all organic. He makes sure he has a balanced plate of macronutrients. It's really not rocket science. I know they've made it seem like it is because of the confusion and chaos that's been created by our politicians, our leaders, and the media, but it's really not. So I want you guys to remember that and keep that in mind, even as we dive in over the next coming week. Before I pass it to Brother Long, I just want to quickly break down the macronutrients for you and define what they are. So the proteins and fats usually come from something that has a set of eyes, exceptions being things like avocados, seeds, and nuts, which are high in fat and placed in the eye group of balancing meals. I will just add that nuts and seeds should always be sprouted in addition to being organic. Sprouting them, germinating them helps to take off the phytic acid, which unfortunately leads to malabsorption as well as other health issues. So really important that you get that layer off. And the only way to do that is to germinate. I would say that also applies to things like quinoa. So keep that in mind. But certainly all nuts and seeds should always be soaked. And carbohydrates are predominantly from things that don't have eyes and include fruits and vegetables, and in some cases, legumes and grains. However, for the course of these talks, we are going to not lean heavily on legumes and grains. At least I won't be. I can't speak for Brother Long. I want the focus to be when I speak of carbohydrates, and I'll make sure to reiterate this when I do bring up carbohydrates, that I am referring to fruits and vegetables, because most of us are not healthy enough right now to be eating a large number of legumes. Some of us can because of bioindividuality, and grains, again, very problematic, especially if you're living in America because of the folic acid. All of the grains in this country have been sprayed with folic acid, which is 100% man-made. It's a harsh chemical that leads to symptoms like ADHD, as well as other chronic illnesses. but we'll explore that again going down the road. So for now, I want to just take a quick break and allow Brother Long to come in and present what he has to share with us. So let me add this to the stage. Brother Long, here we go.
So there's a chain of islands around Australia called the Trobriand Islands. And one of the Trobriand Islands is called the island of Catawba. And on the island of Catawba, back in the 1980s, they discovered a group of people living on the island that had been untouched by modern civilization for the last 10,000 years. And they were living the same lifestyle today that they had been living 10,000 years ago. And so this gave scientists a fascinating opportunity to explore ancient man's diet and health. And so a whole team of physicians went to Catawba and began analyzing and assessing the health of the people. And that's what you kind of see the white arms measuring the man's tape. The scientists came and they were researching these people. And what they found was that there were no diseases of civilization among the Catawba people. Okay. And so what diseases of civilization means is that you only get those diseases if you live in certain civilizations. A lot of the health challenges that we experience, all of the top 10 leading causes of death, we have a false preconceived notion that the health challenges affecting us are affecting humans all over the world as a natural cause of humanity. But the reality is the diseases that we have are largely diseases of choice. You have to choose to give yourself these diseases, but you choose unknowingly. And since they are diseases of choice, and they only happen when you live certain lifestyles, they call them diseases of civilization. Things like cancer, heart attack, stroke, diabetes, Alzheimer's, dementia. These diseases of civilization did not exist among the Catawba people. They also had no acne, and no one ever died young. The only times that someone would die young is if a coconut would fall from a tree and hit them on the head, or if there was some type of fight over the women. But besides that, okay, there were nobody had heart attack and died all of a sudden. Nobody had a stroke. Nobody had heart cancer. Nobody had any of these diseases of civilization. And one of the fascinating things is that the women who lived in the Catawba Islands were in their 90s and they were still bearing children, okay, in their 90s. And so they asked themselves, how is this possible? How is it possible for these humans to not have any diseases, for the women to still be bearing children? And they thought that perhaps they had some type of special gene, some type of special genetics. When they did the research, their genetics were no different from yours and from mine. The difference is the lifestyle, the diet that they ate. There was no animal products. And most of the diseases of civilization are meat-eating diseases. You eat the meat, you get the disease. You don't eat the meat, you don't get the disease. The only exception was that sometimes they would catch little tiny fish out of the stream and eat the fish raw, but they didn't cook them. You see, when you cook meat, the proteins in the meat turn to cancerous carcinogens. Okay, so by the act of cooking the meat, you're supposed to get cancer if you eat that for several reasons, which we'll see. So the only type of animal products that they ate on the island of Catawba was, again, they would reach into the stream and grab a little tiny fish and eat it raw as a snack. Besides that, they consumed no animal products. And the result is what we just explained. Okay. Now, the thing is, a lot of people have a misconceived notion that certain people of a certain race are more sick and more diseased than other races simply by virtue of their race. And that's not the case. People of certain races eat more of the foods that cause the diseases, and then so they have them. And so there's a group of European people called the Hunzakus, and they've been living in the Hunza Valley for 2,300 years. They descend from Alexander the Great. When Alexander the Great's men would get injured, they would create a village and stay behind. And so one of the villages of Alexander the Great's wounded soldiers was the Hunza Valley. And so the people that lived there, these European people, they've been there for 2,300 years, and they too don't have any diseases of civilization, and they live to be over 145. The whole health craze around apricots and apricot seeds comes from the research into the Hunzakus. Okay, they were very big on apricot, and again, they were wondering, how are these people living to 145? How are these people living without any sickness and disease? Maybe it's their genetics. No, it's not their genetics. It was their diet and their lifestyle. Okay, and so what we find from this and other things is that what you have to understand is you should eat to live, not eat for taste. You see, if you stop eating, you'll be dead in a few months. If all you eat is sugar, you'll be dead in a few days. So your relationship to food determines your relationship to health. And if you don't eat the disease-causing foods, then you won't get the diseases. But then that leads to a lot of unhealthy vegetarians, okay? Because a lot of people think, okay, I just won't eat the meat and then I'll be healthy. But what they wind up doing is not eating any real food. And see, the thing about the meat is the meat ate plants, or the meat ate other animals that ate plants. And so when you do eat the meat, you get a lot of nutrition from the plants because the meat ate the plants, or they ate the animal that ate the plants. But if you don't eat the meat or the plants, then you won't get the nutrition at all. You can become a very, very unhealthy vegan or vegetarian, because simply vegan and vegetarian does not equate to health. What equates to health and healthy eating is, based on the nutritional science, you have 6 essential nutrients. And so your body is going to create almost all of the nutrients that it needs to stay healthy. But there are 6 essential nutrients that your body will not create. And so you must give your body these 6 essential nutrients, or your body is not going to have them. Okay. And so if you're not eating meat and all you're eating is processed foods, crackers and stuff in boxes, and you're not actually eating anything that you can pull directly off of a plant, then you're not going to be getting your essential nutrients. And your 6 essential nutrients are carbs, fats, proteins, vitamins, minerals, and waters. And it's really good for you to learn about this, because if you don't know, you'll hear 2 different dietary experts speaking. One of them will say you have to eat carbs. One of them will say stay away from carbs. And you don't know who to listen to. One of them will say you have to eat your fats. Another one will say stay away from fats. You don't know who to listen to. But when you research the nutritional science, you learn that there's good carbs and bad carbs. You want to eat the good carbs, stay away from the bad carbs. But if you don't understand that, sometimes they just give a blanket carbs and they make all carbs seem the same, and they're not. Same with fats. There are some fats that are good. There are some fats that are bad. But instead of explaining that, they just give an umbrella of fats, and then they say stay away from it. Okay? Your vitamins and your minerals, you should not be taking vitamin and mineral pills. If you take a pill to get your vitamins and your minerals, that pill might only be giving you 1 or 2 vitamins, okay, 1 or 2 minerals. But when you eat the food that contains the vitamins and minerals, you be getting dozens and dozens of different micronutrients to go into your body. And so to make sure that you're getting your 6 essential nutrients and that you're eating healthy, you need to make sure that you're eating fruits and veggies, nuts and seeds. Okay. A lot of people don't have any nuts or any seeds in their diet. And your nuts and your seeds are where you get your vitamins and your minerals. And the slide we saw earlier said that the seeds were where you also get your fats and your proteins. Okay. So the nuts and the seeds, fruits and veggies, nuts and seeds. And you want to be eating your food as close to raw as possible when you can. Some foods cannot be eaten raw. Some foods can. The crunch, if you take a carrot and you bite the carrot and you hear the carrot crunch, that crunch is the vitamins and the minerals. If you cook the carrot to the point where you bite it and there's no more crunch, then there's no more vitamins or minerals in that carrot. So when you go to the Chinese restaurant, you notice they only put the vegetables in for a few seconds. And when you bite into those Chinese vegetables, they're almost like raw, they're just warm. And so that's what you want to do. You want to be eating as close to raw as you can for the vegetables that you can. And then you want to be trying to eat something, all the colors of the rainbow. You want to eat your reds, your oranges, your yellows, your greens. It's hard to find blues and purples, but they're out there. So if you're eating fruits and veggies, nuts and seeds, all the colors of the rainbows, then you will make sure that your body is getting the 6 essential nutrients so you can have what you need to be healthy, whether or not you're eating meat.
Is it back to me, Brother Long?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Really great. Let's see also if there are any questions, because we don't have much longer to go live today, guys. We try to keep these around an hour mark so that we present for about 45, 50 minutes, and then we take your questions as well. But if you don't have any questions for now, I have pinned Brother Long's email address again on IG. It's in the comment section. If you're on YouTube, those of you on TikTok listening, it is #1.brotherlong, as it sounds, BROTHERLONG @gmail.com. So I went into the 3 types as per Weston A. Price, and also Paul Chek has done his own. He sort of added to this he's added to metabolic typing and the 3 types of metabolic types that Weston A. Price originally identified, which were the equatorial, the polar, and the variable. And the terms can be interchanged. So polar can be protein type or polar type, carbohydrate type could also be equatorial type, and variable or mixed could be interchanged. So for polar type, also known as protein types, these types of people tend to do much better and wake rested if they eat a meat that is higher in fat and protein closer to bedtime. But I would still caution that and say that you should cease eating at least 4 hours before bed. that is just because so many people have leaky gut nowadays due to the the lifestyle that we have adapted in this modern time. Most people should avoid eating about 4 hours prior to bed. And I would say that even to a lot of my polar slash protein clients, unless something prohibited them from doing so. Also, for these types, the polar and protein types, balancing blood sugar and protein types, particularly before bed, can clear chronic headaches, fatigue, depression, poor concentration, back and neck pain, fatigue, constipation, and low libido. But you have to take in mind that during Dr. Weston A. Price's time, that people were generally healthier, much, much healthier, right? And so most people didn't have leaky gut, chronic inflammation, and the like, syndrome X, autoimmune disorders. So that's why even for my protein and polar types, I would still advise a good 4 hours. And for me, that means 6 o'clock is when I cease eating because I tend to be in bed by 10. Continuing on with protein types, particularly those needing to lose body fat, they also do better eating small balanced meals more frequently. Okay, so those are just some tips. For the opposite, for the complementary opposite of that, we would have the equatorial, also known as the carbohydrate types, right? Because the equatorial types will eat more fruits and vegetables. If you were here earlier, you know that when I speak about carbohydrates, I am not referring to rice, pasta, and other grains. I am referring strictly to vegetables and fruits. So for these types of people, they don't officially metabolize fats and proteins when eaten alone, which is not surprising because where they're living, if you look at their surroundings, they're able to consume such vast quantities, and there's a huge range in tropical islands in terms of vegetables and herbs and vegetation, etc., that you could be consuming that all provide adequate nutrients and life force, that it's not surprising that fats alone can be challenging, and proteins alone can be challenging to them because the bulk of their diet is coming from fruits and vegetables, not surprisingly. Carbohydrate types do well on 2 meals a day. So as you can see, that's quite different than from a protein type. And again, I would always caution even my carbohydrate slash equatorial types to cease consuming food approximately 4 hours before bed. And for the people that are in between, so to speak, right? So the variable, the mixed types, these people will start proportioning rather their meals with 50% of their plate coming from the I group, so protein type, right? And 50% from the no eyes food groups. In very simple terms, it means that the variable types and the mixed types, the people that don't fall as that are not classified as polar slash protein types or equatorial slash carbohydrate types, the people that are in between, these people will need a plate that is half and half, basically half protein, half carbohydrates, meaning fruits and vegetables. So to maximize chances of achieving health and vitality, variable types need to study and become very intimate with themselves and the methods of fine tuning their meals because there is no one size fits all. That's why whenever public health officials are trying to prescribe a one size fits all to everyone, you should think twice. You should do your own research because, again, referring back to bioindividuality, what is good for me may not be good for you. What is good for Brother Long might not be good for someone else. So always please keep that in mind and do your own research. Having said that, I think that we've covered enough for today. We want to keep these also very manageable and digestible. Brother Long, did you have anything that you wanted to add for today?
Yeah, I wanted to say about Hippocrates
Mm-hmm.
and food being thy medicine. Um, in Western medicine, all of our doctors, when they finish doctor school, they have to take what's called the Hippocratic Oath, and they make this, fantastic speech and swear to do no harm and follow the oath of Hippocrates. But Hippocrates is famous for saying, "Let food be thy medicine." But our doctors, although they swear an oath to this individual, most of the time they do not prescribe us a certain type of food when we have a health problem. Something happened in the last few hundred years where doctors stopped using food for medicine, and they started using pharmaceutical drugs for medicine. And so it's just something that I find very interesting and something to be aware of, understanding that your doctors are taking vows based on letting food be their medicine, but then they're not using that type of medicine at all anymore. And the result is they're not curing things anymore. Instead, they're managing diseases, turning you into a cash cow and making money off you every month for your prescriptions. And that reminded me of the thing I was trying to get to. During the ancient days, your family would pay the healer a monthly stipend in order to keep your family healthy. And so you want the family to be eating certain foods, using food to be the medicine to keep the family healthy. Because if someone in your house got sick, then the doctor would stop getting paid. Because why would we pay you if we're sick? So the healers were incentivized and motivated to keep everyone healthy because that's how they got paid. Whereas today, your doctor can't get paid unless you are sick. You have to stay sick or the doctor will not get paid. And so as people come up with different cures and different treatments and different things, every time we can cure or heal something, it's a threat to the doctors and the medical institution because they want you to stay sick and they want to manage your disease. And if you get healed, there's nothing else to manage. So you just have to keep this in mind. And while you have so much faith in this medical system that doesn't intend to heal you, because then it won't make any money.
I love that. And to back up what you've just said and to quote somebody who I've always admired and looked up to, may he now rest in power, Dr. Sebi himself, said, how can you trust a medical system that profits from your sickness? It's very well summarized. How do you trust an industry that benefits when you're sick? So marinate on that, meditate on that. Brother Long and I are going to jump off this conversation for today. Thank you to all of you who joined us on TikTok. I appreciate you all. You guys are always showing up in big numbers. I appreciate you. Instagram, we saw a good number of you today. YouTubers, YouTube watchers rather, now that the YouTube is backing up, please subscribe, share, like, comment. Yeah, we will see you next week. From my heart to yours, get free and stay free. Brother Long, anything you want to add?
See you all next week.
Okay, we'll be here same time next week. Bring your questions. We look forward to it. Stay blessed. Stay healthy. Bye.